yet another producer, Rick Salibi, at CNN, we've exposed, and for some reason, Twitter decides to take down the video exposing what this man did.
So he thinks, because you sent me money, you're going to get a nude photo of me and my daughter? Are you insane?
He's asked for nude pictures of your 15-year-old daughter?
Yep, mom and daughter pics. He always says mom and daughter pics. And I even have him on camera saying that he said that.
Today, Twitter removed the video, which had 1.3 million views, right after Jake Tapper was trending on Twitter. And right after we named the name of the producer, Rick Salibi. We did not name him in the original report, but the fiance gave us permission to name him. Rick Salibi's fiance, the mother of this underage girl, actually sent us a beautiful, heartwarming thank you message after we exposed what Rick Salibi was saying and doing. So the real question is CNN putting pressure on Twitter to take down this video? This is about potential pedophilia, potential abuse against an underage girl. The other question is, what is the status of CNN producer Rick Salibi? Does Rick Salibi still work for Jake Tapper in light of these findings, in light of these text messages, in light of these requests to see pictures of underage girls?
If he's talking about this girl and he's talking about my daughter, what other things is he doing? I want this girl to be safe.
From North Carolina is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of House Resolution 140, protecting speech from the government interference. And I applaud and appreciate Chairman Comer bringing this bill forward. In a recent hearing held by the Oversight and Accountability Committee with former executives from Twitter, a clear and very disturbing pattern emerged. A coordinated effort between a privately owned social media giant and the federal government to suppress critical reporting ahead of the 2020 presidential election. Mr. Speaker, the federal government and its legions of unelected bureaucrats must not be the final decision maker of what information Americans can and cannot read. The onus is on Congress to provide a way to effectively prevent federal bureaucrats from suppressing lawful speech. This bill, House Resolution 140, would do just that. For almost 100 years, the Hatch Act has served as an important barrier against taxpayer-funded employees participating in political activities while on official time, and added suppression of free speech to its list of prohibited activities. I urge strong support for this legislation, and I'm encouraged by Chairman Comer's commitment to thoroughly investigate the ever-increasing encroachment by big tech companies into the privacy and the First Amendment rights of millions of Americans.
Do you want to go with Mr. Schellenberg? We can go with Mr. Schellenberg. We'll start with Mr. Schellenberger. You understand how it works. You get 5 minutes. Make sure you hit the microphone so we can all hear. When it gets to yellow, it means just like you would expect time to start winding up, and when it gets to red, it's time to stop, but we'll be a little bit leaning on the time. Mr. Schellenberger, you are recognized for your opening statement.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Plaskett, members of the committee, thank you very much for inviting my testimony. In his 1961 farewell address, President Dwight Eisenhower warned of, quote, the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower feared that the size and power of the complex, or cluster, of government contractors in the Defense Department would, quote, endanger our liberties or democratic processes. How did he mean that? Through, quote, domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money. He feared public policy would become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. Eisenhower's fears were well-founded. Today, American taxpayers are unwittingly financing the growth and power of a censorship industrial complex run by America's scientific and technological elite, which endangers our liberties and democracy. I'm grateful for this opportunity to offer this testimony and sound the alarm over the shocking and disturbing emergence of state-sponsored censorship in the United States of America. The Twitter files, state attorneys general lawsuits, and investigative reporters have revealed a large and growing network of government agencies, academic institutions, and non-governmental organizations that are actively censoring American citizens, often without their knowledge, on a range of issues. I do not know how much of the censorship is coordinated beyond what we have been able to document, and I will not speculate. I recognize that the law allows Facebook, Twitter, and other private companies to moderate content on their platforms, and I support the right of governments to communicate with the public, including to dispute inaccurate information. But government officials have been caught repeatedly pushing social media platforms to censor disfavored users and content. Often these acts of censorship threaten the legal protection social media companies need to exist, Section 230. If government officials are directing or facilitating such censorship, notes one law professor, it raises serious First Amendment questions. It is axiomatic that the government cannot do indirectly what it is prohibited from doing directly. Moreover, we know that the U.S. government has funded organizations that pressure advertisers to boycott news media organizations and social media platforms that refuse to censor and/or spread disinformation, including alleged conspiracy theories. The Stanford Internet Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab and Graphica have all inadequately disclosed ties to the Department of Defense, the CIA, and other intelligence agencies, creating blacklists of disfavored people and then pressuring, cajoling, and demanding that social media platforms censor, de-amplify, and even ban the people on those lists. The censorship industry or an extremist to deploy government resources to counter your political activity. The only predicate it needs is simply the assertion that the opinion you expressed on social media is wrong. These efforts extend to influencing and even directing conventional news media organizations. Since 1971, when the Washington Post and New York Times elected to publish classified Pentagon papers about the war in Vietnam, journalists have understood that we have a professional obligation to report on leaked documents whose contents are in the public interest. And yet in 2020, the Aspen Institute and Stanford Cyber Policy Center urged journalists to, quote, break the Pentagon Papers principle and not cover leaked information to prevent the spread of disinformation.